about it, but today we're talking about bringing out the best in your team. So I'll make it up as we go and hopefully we will get somewhere. I'm just going to read this little ditty and then feel free at any stage to ask questions because I keep forgetting to have a question time, so if you'd like to interrupt me, that's fine. I don't mind. Okay, so just put up your hand and I'll say, do you need to go to the toilet? No, and we'll get to it. So imagine an environment where we are leading a team where the members are motivated, enthusiastic, inspired and challenged. Imagine an atmosphere where they feel powerful, capable, supported and respected. It is teams such as these that produce extraordinary results and display far greater effectiveness than if members worked as individuals. It is this kind of environment we seek to create when we place effort and energy to empowering people effectively. The aim of empowerment is not merely to get the job done, but to achieve the team's goals by recognising and releasing the creative energy of each individual within team. Creating such an environment requires the investing of our time and resources in skills and activities that will produce the kind of results that we desire. You know, it's always a challenge being in ministry, and particularly being in full-time ministry. I always experience the tension between ministering to the children and ministering to your team. And I think what happens as you continue on in your ministry, particularly if you're a children's pastor here or a pastor or whatever you are, the more your ministry develops, the more I believe your focus becomes the team than the kids. I think of some of the team members that will be part of our team, and it's a great delight when your team members move on and become other things. I think that's quite great. Some of my team members are now actually the pastors of the church where I used to pastor, so that some of them are on the senior leadership now. The children's pastor, the youth pastor, all came from the children's ministries team. That's a great honour when that sort of stuff happens. It's a loss to the children's ministries, but at the same time it's an honour. For me, I think I was blessed in a lot of ways because our church had a policy, and that was that we grow people and disciple people. I think today there's an environment in church where we're always looking for the person who is the kids ministry specialist or the youth specialist, so we never look within our midst or within our own congregation to find that kind of person. Hence we have children's pastors moving all around the country. There's probably nothing wrong with that. I don't really care, but it's far greater to grow people than to always look for the ready-made. Because that, in actual fact, that's what we're supposed to do. I was talking to some people the other day, and we were talking about a certain missionary who'd been in a certain country for a fairly lengthy span of time, and they don't want to come home because they've got no one to replace them. And I thought to myself, how sad is that? When you think about it, what is it that we're actually trying to do? Is it not to build disciples or find people to replace what we are doing? Isn't it a matter of, isn't that the task? Isn't that the work? And I don't have all the answers to this, and I don't think I always got it right about bringing out the best in people, but I want to just throw some thoughts at you. Maybe you can have some thoughts that you want to throw back. But I just want to offer up a few thoughts and suggestions, and hopefully they will be helpful to you. I think the main thing we need to do is understand we need to have a structure of leadership in place in our ministries. So what is the way that you train your leaders, your current leaders? How do you encourage them? What is it that you do? Are people just on a rota or on a roster and they're just required once a month and that's all we require from them? What is it that you do and how do you do it? I think back to one particular time when it was a Sunday night and I was at a baptismal service, and a lady was getting baptised, and it was a typical thing, had a really rough background, a miraculous sort of conversion and a different person. And God really spoke to me about that person, said, John, you need to recruit that person for kids ministry. I thought, okay, cool. So I asked one of the other ladies on our team to begin to have coffees with her and just suss her out. And we conned her to join the children's ministries team, and she became one of our greatest assets. Now, she had no prior skill in children's ministry at all. She just had just God spoke to us about her, and we recruited her, and she became one of like our second or third in charge of our ministry, and has gone on to be in ministry. She's one of the ones who's now the pastor of the church. And sometimes, you know, the basis where we need to start is we need to start with a good basis. If people aren't, I shouldn't say good enough, I can't think of a better term, all right? If they're not good enough to be in any other ministry in the church, then they're probably not suited for kids ministry as well. Don't take the trash. Can I say that in this environment? You know what I mean. I'm not saying people are worthless and hopeless and all that. So don't quote me wrong. I am meaning that. No, I'm not. But, you know, when you start from a good base, usually you're going to have a better leader at the end of it. And just to say off the top of the bat as well, you know, it's not all dependent upon ourselves as well. It is to make people better. Every individual has their own choices that they need to make to be better as well. It's not all on us. We need to create the environment. That's $10. Thank you very much. That's all right. We have to create the environment for them to thrive in. And so you will constantly find that pressure of, you know, do I minister to the kids or do I minister to my team? But as you grow, my opinion is that we need to minister to the team. Now that doesn't mean that we have to minister. If you've got 60 volunteers, if you've got 100 volunteers, that's impossible. But you need to build structures of training and accountability. If you were in my session last night, the systems that you have developed need to work for you, and that's all they have to work for. They can be simplistic. They don't have to be complex. Actually, the simpler they are, I think the easier they work. So just basically worked on, well, I was the senior leader. I was responsible to the leadership of the church. I had 3 or 4 people underneath me, and these were the people that I worked with on a more intimate level. Okay? These were the only 4 people that I really had to worry about. And underneath them, they had their team members there, and underneath them there was teams. And so that was just a simple way of us being able to manage people. Sometimes we crossed over into here if they were having trouble with individuals or thought they would benefit from us being together. We would make sure that we did that. But our art was to develop people into ministry. If you're always looking for someone better, you won't be able to do this. Our church, every pastor from the church was homegrown. Senior pastor, youth pastor, children's pastor, women's pastor, food pastor, they're all homegrown. Because the Bible encourages us to build disciples. That's what it encourages us to do. So one of the benefits of growing your own people is that they automatically have the DNA of your church. They already have the DNA of what you do. Sometimes when we import people, they have a different set of guidelines. They have a different DNA. They have a different passion sometimes. And I think it's sad when you see pastors come into thriving churches and you see the church absolutely die because the church was growing because the pastor has a different DNA. And if they don't possess the skill to be able to change the DNA of the church, then it usually self-destructs around them. Not always the case, but most of the time. So recognise and releasing people into ministry is something that is quite crucial to the advancement of your ministry. Question already.
You're talking about the fact about just training, maintaining, and just pouring into the group of 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
What are you doing in this scenario where those 3 or 4 people are, in my case, females? And it's like, because you mentioned the fact that like this lady, so you got one of your female leaders to go and have coffee with her and that sort of stuff. And
yeah.
How do you, as a guy, build up? Because it's like I'm a children's youth pastor, and most of my leaders are females.
Sure.
It's like I'm wanting to empower them and to really coach them into the next step in terms of realizing that they probably don't like calling of ministry, not necessarily pastoring, but of being in leadership in the church. And how do you kind of pastor them in that?
It is difficult. I think for most part, for some of those women, I would just have them over to my house with my wife and family and stuff like that. So it's not so much me meeting in a room with them. It's like come over for tea with her husband and stuff like that. So it's like we're doing life. So I don't think we have to be so formal about it all the time. Discipleship is the fact of doing life together. And there's times where I have to challenge them, but I just do it in the presence with either my wife or with another associate or in an open forum where we're in maybe the church offices, if there's a public space just in the corner or something like that where, you can talk without everybody hearing, but being open and transparent about that. If sometimes I had to meet with just a female, I would tell the secretarial staff, I'm going to Starbucks, I will be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I'm with such and such, and I'll be back, and stuff like that. 'Cause sometimes you can't avoid being alone, but if you can try and minimise that, the better off you can. You need to really not develop, well, I shouldn't say strong relationships. I have strong relationships with these women under our ministries, friendships, but you cannot gain emotional ties with these people, and you need to guard from having that emotional type of conversations. If the conversation would come around where it's more personal stuff, then I probably would just dodge it or change the subject or not try and connect on that emotional type of level. So there's no real easy answers to some of this stuff. And, if you meet in your office, the door open or something like that, probably would not meet in our offices if no one else is around. Just simple things like that to protect yourself. But I think in order to attract the right kind of people, we need to attract an environment that is magnetic, where people want to be part of it, where we're governed by passion and vision. I think people are attracted to that, not to so much, we're doing it hard, it's so tough doing the kids ministry, we've got nobody, and that kind of atmosphere doesn't really attract probably the kind of people that you want. So, our language, the way we view the ministry, the way we view team is always from a fairly positive, this is what we're doing, this is what we believe God has called us to do, and this is why we believe you need to be part of the team. And so attracting volunteers, the right kind of volunteers, is probably the first step to empowering people. I think there's a couple of points when it comes to empowering. It's that basically it's building a relationship with the people. Okay, I don't know, Australians, Canadians, I don't know if we're the same, but Australians are fairly relational. Okay, they like informality. So, we don't wear ties in churches or stuff like that. We wear tank tops and drink beer and do all that sort of stuff and have barbecues, and it's based on that kind of trust. Secondly, I think we need to create a learning environment, because you know what, everybody, even the specialist kids pastors, youth pastors, they all started somewhere. Somewhere down the line, someone gave them an opportunity to make a mistake and gave them a second opportunity. Now, you might not have power over that. That could be more your pastoral staff or your church administration, eldership, whatever it is. I don't know. So sometimes we don't have that power. But we do have power over the people we are trying to lead. And that is also our volunteers who stand alongside us. And I like to create an environment where we're all in it together. I don't really like hierarchy. There's probably a downside of Australia. If you're the tall poppy, they're out to get you. So if you stick your head up about the crowd, you've got sights here and they're going to shoot you. So you try and keep your head down for the most part. But what I like to do, and that's my leadership style, I like the children's ministries because I can play the leader, but I can also play the person who needs to sweep the floor. And I like that about the ministry. I like the practicality of it. I like punching kids up. I like, influencing my leaders. And I think that's really important for people to see and to empower people. I don't take kindly to leaders who think they just lead and are the top of the crop. That's just like, dude, get a life, So thirdly, we need to provide choice. Actually, just saying that, so create an environment where you can make a mistake. The thing that you need to do is make sure, though, the empowerment that you give people, the mistake that they're going to make is not going to be detrimental to the whole thing falling flat on its face. So try and give responsibility piece by piece. And sometimes you've just got to let them make mistakes. It's as simple as that. Because you know what? My life journey has been a journey of making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. That's life, isn't it? Are you all perfect? Why? My head's pretty hard. It needs to be whacked several times before I get the picture. So creating that environment. For example, we did this one outreach once, and it was called it was based on Big Brother, all right? Now, you might have your theologically opposed reasons why you shouldn't do Big Brother. It was called Big Sister, all right? And I was away for the month of the preparation. I said I wanted them to do a video of two people sitting on the couch, just back of their heads, and then just going, yeah, yeah. It was more just we were going to just, what's happening in the Big Sister house? And it just goes to that shot, like that. But while I was away, they decided that they wanted to make the whole, mimic the whole show. So they created characters, and I didn't ask them to do that. I had a different plan of making that other segment work, and I got back and they'd already planned it. It was too late to change it. They said, we're going with it. I said, that's fine, but I said, I don't think it's going to work. And as the outreach happened, it didn't work, and it fell flat on its face. We had like 400 kids there, and I thought, this thing is diving really bad. So I said, you know what, we're going to can that segment. And they were spewing, mate. It's like, yeah, you can't do that. We put so much work in it. I said, well, we can't continue to do it because we're going to have 400 kids who are going to want to kill us at the end of the night. And so sometimes, we need to let them make mistakes. You've got to know when those mistakes are going to be detrimental to what you're doing, or do they really matter? I think continued mistakes, well, obviously the person just isn't getting it, or they're in the wrong place. So provide choice. It's really good when we delegate things to people like, could you do this, and can you do that, can you do that? But most people have a skill and ability that they are very good at. So the more that you can identify what it is that they do well and fit them into that position, the more they rise. There's nothing worse than being in a position where you struggle with the task that you have to do. Oh, they've got a bad attitude, or they are this, but maybe they're just positioned wrong. Maybe it's just a simple fact that they're just in the wrong place. I hate administration. Not that the fact that I don't like it. I know it's really important, and I don't think you can run away from it if you're in children's ministries. It's a large part of what you do. Even in the ministry that I'm in now, there's a lot of administrative work, and sometimes I want to pick up my laptop and throw it out the window. It's like, I just want to go smack a few keys or something. I don't want to be doing this. So, finding the right people and gather around yourself people who can fulfill some of those areas, who are really passionate about it. There is people who really love administration. They're really weird people. They are important people to the success of what you do, really. So identify people's gifts, identify their abilities, and release them to do those things that they're passionate about. At the same time, though, we need to challenge people to be a little bit more than who they are. It's not okay all the time to say, you know what, I'm no good at administration, therefore I'm going to throw my hands in the air and say I can't do it. Well, that's not good enough either. And I think the whole thing is you're scared sometimes to challenge people because getting volunteers is a very hard task, and then to put the thumb screws down on them, you're like, well, they're just going to say, see you later, Jack, I'm out the door. So sometimes you get caught between the two. To empower people to rise to the top. I really wanted a video segment. We used to do just crazy video stuff, just segments of, we had this big dog, and we wanted to do some video series on him. So we bought a camera, we scraped together some money, and I couldn't afford, editing equipment. It's very expensive. So I could afford just a real basic editing program, and I gave it to a young guy who was 16, and I said, here, take the program, put it on your home computer, and here's the camera, go and make some videos of Murphy the dog. And he absolutely loved it, and they did fantastic, going out each week, and they would take little snippets of the dog getting arrested by the police at the shopping centre and all that sort of stuff. The kids thought it was fantastic, but it really motivated him to be involved in what we were doing. And so sometimes it's providing the tools for them to be able to do that. And I think that more part of children's ministry's leadership as you grow, it's about resourcing your people and the ministry. That seems to be where the ministry leads to. I don't understand ministries where the leader is always leading the children all the time. Like, there's got to be a point where we are training and releasing people. I think it's really sad visiting ministries and you see the children's ministry specialist up the front and they're old, and they're fat, than what they were 10 years ago. And when you've got young people who have a lot of energy and a lot of passion, who could be up the front and could really create an atmosphere that the kids could really get into, because we're keeping them down. And the whole thing about raising up people is that they are going to be better than you, because that's the whole point of what we're doing. If they're not better than us, then we've probably not done our job. Or is that too radical? They have to be better than what we've done. They have to go further than what I have gone. The greatest thing when I left Melbourne was my nephew. It wasn't just because he's my nephew. He probably wasn't my first choice to take over my position. There was somebody else that I would prefer to take it over, but the church put a 22-year-old boy to take over my position, because they believe in raising young people, because they believe in doing that. And I think it's fantastic to see him do that. Yeah, he wasn't me, but you know what? He's going to do far better than what I ever did. See, because we carry a generation on our shoulders, really, and then they'll carry another generation upon theirs, and it's a matter of building up people. And the more that we can release, the better. You know, a lot of, I would say, my disciples, some of them went feral. Some of them have gone wild, but for the most part of it, a lot of them are doing very well because we gave them an environment where they can thrive. So provide the right kind of choice, provide the right kind of equipment for the job. Also, fourthly, we need to assess the individual's readiness for a position. Because sometimes we can just throw them in the deep end, and for some people they can swim with that, but others can't cope with that. Some people need to be prepared. Some people need to go through the scenarios in their head. We need to develop their capacity for more. You can't just always throw them into the deep end, although I don't mind throwing them in the deep end. Some people might be really good at communicating to a large group, but they can be hopeless with one-on-one communication or a more pastoral type of role. The challenge is helping people being realistic with their giftings and callings. Because some people think they're more than what they are. There's two spectrums I've found. Those that don't have the confidence to be what they should be, and those that think they should be something that they're not. And some of these analyses that we do today are great, but sometimes they take them as gospel, and, you know, I'm a teacher, brother. It's like, you know what, I've heard you teach, man. I'd rather shoot myself than spend another 10 minutes of listening to your gargle. You know, so are you a teacher? Well, if you are, you better brush up on your teaching skills because you're but boring, mate. Does teaching give you a license to be boring? Like, come on. I struggle with this more than anything else. People who you know, really want it to be up the front because we think being up the front is everything. And yet their skill of pastoral care and connecting with the kids is second to none. Yet when you put them in that environment, they're always thinking that they need to be something else. And that is just you have to be really gentle with those people, because as much as we do want to develop and empower people, bringing those people around to the realisation of what their real gift and abilities is a job that needs to be done slowly, and a job that needs to be done carefully, because you can wound those people and you can really destroy them. But sometimes you might just have to sit down and say, look, buddy, you ain't getting it. I don't think this is where you're at. Get somebody else to do that, like senior pastor or something like that. It's probably better. And understand that I think there's a few things that, just on the practice, just some things to remember. And I think it's about building a team. And the way I like to look at it is like this. Everybody fits in. It's like a clock with multiple cogs. And so remind them that they are significant. Everybody, no matter what you do, whether it's a small component or a large component, without the small, the large can't happen. And re-educating people that is the process of what we're doing here. What you deem as insignificant and small and irrelevant in the whole process, it's actually not. And help them see how it works together and fits together. Because people want to do something significant. People want to be significant, don't they? Or we all just want to be trash, do we? No, they want to be involved in significant, and they want to feel a valued part of what they're doing. Some people are really content in doing the small stuff, and they are as important as the person who can sing, dance. I was going to say something else, but it's probably not appropriate. And so show genuine interest in their dreams and help their dreams become a reality. I think sometimes we can look at people as a means to an end. Try to avoid that. You know, I'm as guilty of that as anybody, you know, because you're really passionate about seeing the ministry move forward, aren't you? It's like, you know what, at the same time, it's really good, like, you know, that person would be fantastic in the kids ministry. Go after them. Yeah, you know, even if they're in the music ministry, you know, and the ones that aren't good, say, encourage them to join the music ministry. Is it true around the world that the music ministry is like a vortex that just sucks everybody into it, or is that just Australia? Okay, it's global. Right. Okay. Selfish friendships. As a kid, I don't know about you, maybe I was just a little mongrel kid, but you used to suck up to kids because they had something that you wanted to play with. Did you ever do that? Like they had like the latest computer game and you never had. I was a fruiterer's son, so we had a fruit shop. So basically my life was get up in the morning, go to school, come home, work in the shop, go home, eat dinner, go to bed, and then you worked in the shop every single night. Every holidays were in the shop. Give Dad a break. The weekends we worked in the shop. If we weren't working the shop, we were cleaning the shop. And our life till I left home was the shop. And sometimes, you know, my father had 7 kids, so he had a lot of mouths to feed. So we didn't have a lot of stuff. You know, I used to have to ride my sister's bike with no bar in the middle. Like, you know how embarrassing that was? A purple bike with no bar in the middle. So when you fell off the seat, there was no pain at all. Like, the shame of it all. But, you know, I used to hang around with Alistair, who didn't have a lot of friends, but only because he had a go-kart. And, you know, you'd sort of talk around, you got a go-kart. What's it like to ride? Gee, it'd be really good to have a ride of your go-kart. Like, and so, you know, they hang around people for what you can get. You know, it's not a genuine two-way type of thing. And sometimes we need to try and avoid that kind of mentality. It's not just what we can get from those people, what they can give us. It's about what we can give them as well. And it's that two-way type of communication or flow, if you want to speak, that really does empower people. But it's got to be genuine. Right? You know what? It's got to be genuine. It can't be just manufactured. Make sure that we remind them that what they are involved in is significant, not insignificant. You know what? I think there's a big problem in children's ministries because people feel that it's an insignificant ministry. Because that is sort of the perception that children's ministries is rising from at present time. It's a lesser thing. Well, we know it's not, but, you know, for a lot of people, that can be the perception, they're just babysitting the kids. Like, I don't really care what other people think about what we're doing with kids. I couldn't care less. I can't change always other people's thoughts and opinions, but I can change my own. I can influence my team. And so what we're doing here is significant. It is making a difference. It will have ramifications for tomorrow as well. And to constantly remind your people that what they do is significant. I think we need constant reminder of that. Position means little. I alluded to this earlier, that really, you know, we are a team. Each person brings their gifts and talents, no matter how big or how small they are, and together we are working towards a common goal and a common purpose. So no one is better than the other. Now that's speaking probably idealistically, really, because there is some people who are very crucial to your success in ministry or the success of the ministry, not just your ministry. I think that's probably a mistake, number one, is saying that it is my ministry. You know, it is the ministry to children, which we all have a responsibility to share in and be part of. So, yeah, we're all significant. We work as a team and we fail as a team. It's some more practical things. Have a look at what you do with your team. How do you spend time? We could probably throw this open for a bit of, what time are we supposed to finish here?
45.
Huh? 2:45. Oh, flip. Yeah, we better have some discussion. How do you, let's throw it up into the crowd. What do you do with your teams? Do you have weekly meetings? Do you have monthly meetings? Do you have no meetings? Who has a weekly meeting? Who has a monthly, who has a fortnightly meeting together? What's that? Every second? Every 2 weeks. Cool. Who has a monthly meeting? Who has bi-monthly? That's 2 months, isn't it? Okay, so more than 3 months? 6 months meeting? 1 a year? Okay. Right. Right, so therefore, I think we've discovered something here. It's really important, you know. When I say being part of this team is significant, I mean being part of this team is significant. It's significantly enough that you would release some time to be at least at a fortnightly meeting or once a month meeting to be part of it. Because we need to raise the standard or expectation of what we do. If we want to attract quality people, then what we do needs to be quality. People will always take the line of least resistance. It's just the natural part of life. So I don't give leaders the soft option. I don't give it. You know what? When we recruit people, we need to be upfront of what the expectations are before they even start. If you come onto the team in this particular position, different positions need a bit more buy-in than other positions. If you want to be doing certain things, it's going to require you to be at a weekly meeting or every second week. Requires you to at least do an hour's study per week. The more that you can identify these kind of things, the more that you will help yourself and help those people to grow as well. We were a team of people who were dedicated to reaching children and ministering to children, and that is the expectation. Another thing, I can't doesn't exist. Where the Spirit has said we will move forward. We don't always know the way forward, but don't come with me, I can't do that. Now, unfortunately, my wife still reminds me of that now when I use it as my own excuse. Provide simple job descriptions. Don't ask more than what they possibly can give. Some people work 60-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks, and they volunteer what they can, their time. So respect that. But sometimes I think we make excuses for people why they can't step up to the mark and be more involved in what we do. Because I believe in what we do. I believe in the significance of what we do. I'm not going to tell, I've got a story to tell tonight which will demonstrate the significance of what we do and the ramification it has to each generation leading from one person. And so don't make the bar so low that anybody can jump, because you will get anybody. I don't accept she'll be right, mate. We have in Australia, it's like, yep, she'll be right, mate, means it's all cool, I've got it sorted. So every time I heard, yeah, she'll be right, mate. Have you got something ready for Sunday? Or, yeah, mate, she'll be right. No, it won't be right because you just said it's going to be right. So you haven't prepared, you haven't done your stuff. And lo and behold, whenever the event or whatever it was doing came off, they weren't prepared. You know, hold them to account. If someone has not done what they're supposed to do, then we have the right to speak to them. It's not paying out on them. It's like, well, you know, why did that not happen? Did you have, maybe their grandpa died that week. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe their wife kicked them out of the house. I don't know, but sometimes their excuses are legitimate, you know, and sometimes they're not. So raising the standard and expectation. The other thing that I think is really important about raising up people, like I said, you've got to start with the right foundation. And if the people don't like you as the leader, then they don't lead in the kids' ministry. It's as simple as that. If they don't like the church leadership, then they don't serve in the children's ministries. I will not have people on the team who don't like me. Not that I have to be liked by everybody, but if they don't believe in the vision and the mission and the leadership, then they can't serve. Because you're just going to end up with a little bit of leavening the whole dough. And I'm not saying that because I'm insecure. I'm saying that from past experiences. You know, if I don't believe in a place, I can't work in a place. It's as simple as that. Don't go and make trouble. Don't go and go somewhere where you do like. Like, you know, why come and say, well, you should be this and you should be that. Hey, I'm not saying that I close my ears to what people have to say, because sometimes, and I'll talk about this in a minute, sometimes I do have to change as a leader as well. So don't make apologies for the ministry. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes commitment. It takes commitment to improve and change. It takes commitment to attend training meetings, and it's essential in maintaining effectiveness and taking the ministry to the next level. We met every single week. That was the expectation. If you're going to join this team, every Tuesday night we meet. Now, not everybody was always required on a Tuesday night. Certain leaders were. Other facets of the ministry weren't. So, say the first week in the Tuesday was a kids' works, a big event planning meeting. The second week was a curriculum planning for the next month. The third week was something else. The fourth week was a whole team meeting. For at least once a month, the whole team, everybody who works in children's ministries came together, whether they were working in play groups, mums and tots groups, whether they were working in preschool, whether they were working in primary, whatever area, we all came together and we provided inspiration, we provided chocolate and sweets. It was a good combination. And we'd just get together, we would have a good chat, we would eat together, we would have fun together. Sometimes we provided inspiration from other people, so we get the senior pastor in or someone from outside the church, completely unrelated to children's ministries, just to come and inspire them, someone to come and encourage them in what they're doing and the ministry that God's called them to. See, we can't just have people on a rota because that's all they serve it with. I found a great difficulty being in the UK because it's quite a different culture to Australia, and I really struggled with it for the first year or so, or 2.5 years. I've only been there for 2.5. But I started looking after a church just in an interim as the children's pastor was having a baby and they were looking for another pastor. And I made the mistake of saying, yeah, I'll step in just for a little bit until you get a new kids pastor. And I tried to change some of this. People just on a rota, you know, parents coming in and people just on a rota. I thought there was a lot of talk about the value of the kids ministry, how they didn't value it because they weren't putting on another kids pastor straight away. They wanted to put a kids pastor on, but they were looking for the right person to take that position. They didn't want to make any, you know, sudden moves, and it was cool. And so, you know, they were talking about value and how the church doesn't value it and all this sort of stuff. And I sort of proposed, well, you know, how does someone coming in once a month value children? It didn't go down too well, actually. Yeah. And some people still don't talk to me to this day. But anyway, so there was a lot of dialogue about those kind of things. But I think it's really important that, you know, some of these things, how we train leaders, how we encourage them, how we're actually having a plan. You're allowed to plan for things. You're allowed to have a plan how you're going to build your leadership. In actual fact, to really grow your ministry, you need to have a solid plan of how your leadership structure looks like. You need to have a plan about how your children's ministries is going to move forward. Now, that doesn't mean that it's set in concrete, because it does need to change because situations and circumstances do change. But we need to provide the platform for people to know more, learn more, be more. Any questions so far? Yeah.
One of the things that I struggle with as far as meetings is just people are so busy, and then they just say, no, I can't come. Or they'll come and then leave halfway through. Like, what do you do with that? Do you just say, well, you can't be a part of children's ministry then if you can't make the meeting a priority? Or how do you deal with that?
There's two scenarios. If you're trying to move your ministry forward and it's important that everybody's on the same page, then it's really important that they're at your meetings, because if you really want to step it up a notch, it takes a lot of retraining, rethinking, discussion. And if they can't be, what I found is that if people aren't part of that discussion, they're still stuck doing what they're doing, and we're trying to take the whole ministry in a different, different style or a different method. That's where you have to deal with that person. If that person's leaving early doesn't affect the overall running of the actual, of where you're going, it's probably not an issue for now, but one you might have to address at some time. It just depends how disruptive it is. It's not an easy answer to say, but like, if that person couldn't commit and it was, okay, let me back up. I think it's smart to have different entry levels. So identifying in the industry areas of commitment that people can be involved in. Some people are really busy, right? So if you want to be here, okay, so it works. Actually, I'll just do 3 circles. I like circles. Maybe 3, maybe 2, maybe 1. Now understand that these 3 levels are not like this is superior to level 2. This is, this is where you want to be. This is where it all happens. No, all we're doing is we're creating different levels of buy-in or participation. Okay, each level though has more responsibility. So this level here you can be involved in, and you might not have a lot of time, but they'll understand what this level is. It's more helping out on the day. You don't have to do any pre-planning, preparation, lesson planning. It's literally people who come and want to be involved in the kids' ministries, are part of the team, understand your policies, procedures, would come and maybe just man the greet the kids at the door, or something, do some crowd control, or just do jobs that don't require a lot of thought or weekly preparation. This position here is someone who does some minor teaching. So it's just maybe presents an object lesson, maybe sings as a backup or leads worship or something like that. And so there's an intermediate buy-in. If you're on the worship team, you're going to have to at least practice, whenever. So, but if this one here, and then some minor teaching roles as well. This one here, this L3, they are leading a whole team. So they're a team leader. You have to follow up your team. You're doing major teaching roles. You need to report to a meeting at least every second week. So what we're doing is we're creating different levels of buy-in for people, because some people can't. You know what? As they value the ministry most of the time, is they want to actually, become maybe this here. So it's creating, instead of saying, well, you can't be involved, and say, well, okay, they might not be able to give that, but what can they give? And accepting what they can give, if they're happy to remain at that point. If they can't give a lot and they want to be this, well, sorry, that can't be. Because if you want to be this is the requirements to do that. If you can meet the requirements, which is coming to a monthly meeting and staying for the whole stinking meeting, well, that's what you need to do. So don't come crying to me, because when you signed up for it, you signed up for that. Raise the expectation. It's all right to do that. It's all right to challenge them. So, you agreed to this. So what has changed? If something has changed, can we help you? Do you need to step aside for 6 months? Do you need to, just do some stuff where you don't have to think, or maybe it's a difficult season of life for them? I don't know. Does that make sense? I think the fear for a lot of people about being involved in kids ministry is it's like a ministry for life. It's like a dog. It's not just for Christmas. You've got it for years. So allowing people to have different levels of buy-in. So, look, I only want you for 12 months. I don't need you for the rest of your life. I'll ask you again at the end of the year if you want to rejoin up or not. But just for this 12 months, we need you to fulfill this position for us. And what we're going to do in that 12 months, we're going to look for someone who can do that for a longer period. And usually those people coming for 12 months will usually stay, because the environment of team that we created was conducive for them to stay. We looked after each other. It's as simple as, I don't think there's any steps to saying, do this, this and this, and that person will become great. Like, get real. That's just for people who want to write books and make money. It's about doing life together, isn't it? Someone believed in me. My goodness. If I wasn't in the environment I was in, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today because, man, I made a heck of a lot of mistakes. My goodness. And I was in an environment, though, that was believed in people and was willing to do whatever it took to help those people get to where God needs them to be. And I thank God that I was in an environment like that. I really do. I think, man, if I was in different environments, I wouldn't be in ministry today. I'd be driving a cab, cooking pizzas in my backyard. So there's many ways of doing it, and it's something that you build as you get going. But if you're really going to improve children's ministry, if you really want to go forward, well, it's a commitment. I don't understand why people can commit themselves to a sporting club. So they can't commit themselves to church, yet they can go to tennis practice 3 times a week, or they can go to soccer practice every week. Like, well, hello, isn't what we're doing important? Isn't what we're doing significant? Call them on it. Get in their faces a little bit. The worst that's going to happen is they're not going to like you. You can live with that. Man, that's okay. Just get a dog. Fine. They love you no matter what. Well, not true. We had a dog, we couldn't even go in our own backyard. So, you as the leader, I think part of this, of growing great people, you need to be great yourself. And the challenge is for us as much as it is for the people that we are trying to develop. The greatest challenges come to me as a leader, and I need to respond to them. It's all right to have an expectation of everybody else, but we have to have an expectation on ourselves. And good leadership, under good leadership, everything improves. It lifts. That's what we do. Leaders are lifters. We want to push the thinking of our team. We're there as the motivator, the aggressor, as it were, to help people move forward. It is difficult, and like I said, I don't think there's one particular way of saying you need to do this. But you know what? As much as I like my leaders and I want to help them do well, and however I need to do that, it's different for each person. I had one girl who worked under us, and she was so frustrating to work with. She just dropped the ball the last minute all the time, and she had an expectation of being more. And I used to protect her and shelter her a little bit. And after I left, she's no longer doing children's ministries, which I think is a bit of a shame because she got the opportunity to do what she thought she should be doing, and she didn't last. And she's no longer doing it. So I find that a shame, but I think I should have worked harder at trying to help them understand what their real giftings and motivations are and work in those giftings and motivations. I can't speak more highly about doing that because I think it's a real key of those that lead, let them lead. Those that teach, let them teach. Those that administrate, find them an administrative position. Do not get caught up. You don't have to do it all yourself. The more that you can identify that you need to attract to the ministry, identify it, write a job description for it and recruit that person. They don't have to like kids. They have to serve God. I didn't go into kids ministry because I thought kids were great. They stink. They smell. But I did it because I served God and God asked me to do it. I like kids now, they're all right. They're very honest. I think some practical things though with that, we need to create inspiration and vision, always incorporating big picture vision. And if you're going to lead, you've got to have vision. If you're a leader and you're just managing, you're not a leader, you're a manager. But if you're going to be a leader, you need to have a visionary aspect to your life that says, you know what, people, it's great where we are at the moment, but this is where we're going, and this is the vehicle of how we're going to get there. It's great to have vision. You can have vision coming out of all your orifices, but until you start to nail down some of that vision and actually move people towards the vision, then you're just all talk, basically, and people get jacked off with just talk. And they jump off the ship after a while when you're not actually moving it forward. So provide that inspiration, but provide the vehicle to be able to do that. And it's not up to you. That's gathering the right people to help you move forward. Don't waste people's time. Don't waste their time. On the other hand, sometimes I had meetings, you know what, it was a waste I wasted people's time. I wasted my own and wasted theirs as well. Do you really need to have a meeting every single week? Because we were just blindly meeting every week, everybody, you know, you had to be part of it or else you weren't committed to the ministry, and you only have 12 people and you wonder why you're working so flipping hard. So until we changed our mindset, then we had like 60 people full-time working for us, and we shared the load. So, yeah. And I think this is all pertinent to talking about raising people up and building champions, so to speak. With your key leaders, take them out for coffee, chat, seek God on their behalf, allow God to speak to you about them. If you have a word for them, give it to them. Challenge their way of life. I think if we're going to raise anybody's standard, we've got to raise firstly our own. But you know what? It's all right to challenge people in the way they live. Like I like to challenge people's perception of what they believe they can really give their time and effort to. It's like, why does that get your time? Why does that get your money? When we ask for $50, you're all up in arms, church, because we ask for more money, yet you'll go and pay $50 to go to the movies. Like, dude, we're changing lives here. Don't you believe that? Or am I driving my Mercedes for no particular reason? I'm not making money out of this. Somebody is. It's not me. So, people's expectation of church and leaders and stuff is sometimes a little bit, I don't know, it's created on some mental, I don't know what it is sometimes. Can't even describe it. Sometimes it wasn't that much. So, any other questions?
Okay, I just wanted to just mention something regarding the question she had earlier. Just one thing that we kind of did for staff meetings is we have a youth group every night, but every second night it was a home group. So a big group would divide into small groups, you had home groups, but every second meeting it was a big group. We'd say, okay, leaders, try to be there half hour before youth, always on the same youth night, so you're already making time to come to youth, so you can make a half hour earlier to have a short little meeting, and then once a year we would do like a big thing where we go and we try to condo this resort and have a good time. That's just one thing I did. I thought maybe.
Yeah, other friends of mine did a strategy like that where they did their meetings after Sunday service. It worked for them. They were city church, so people commuted in, and people were happy to hang around for an hour after the service. So it worked for them. So there's no one way of doing it, It's just understanding your people and working out ways that you can get them together to retrain, to encourage, to build team. I can't stress enough, you need to build team. Need to build team. Build team. However you need to do it, just do it. If it's bribe them with chocolate, bribe them with chocolate. Just whatever it takes, you've got to build team. Is as significant as any other ministry in the church. Question?
My question is about giving feedback to your leaders.
Right.
Because the ministry is so relational, and yet you want to keep the standard of excellence, and so you get feedback. How have you seen that done effectively?
To what group of people were you feeding back to? Your workers or to the church leadership?
No, your workers.
We would always, once a month was a time of encouragement and inspiration, and in that time we would always find praise points or something to celebrate. Something happened with one of the kids that we've been ministering to. That has always got to be there. Guys, what happened this, 2 weeks ago? Or in the preschool, one of the kids has a bit of a revelation or something, and you always got to lay that on the table to them all. And so isn't that fantastic, We know we're not seeing thousands of kids come and say, but, a real difference has happened here. And just little things. Don't take for granted the small things that happen, but you've got to seek them out, and every time you hear them, write them down and present it to the group. Yeah.
And negative things?
Yeah, it depends. I wouldn't probably bring it to, say, if you had like 100 volunteers and it's a general full meeting, I would, if some things we have to address, yeah. Absolutely. You know what, guys, I come into the kids' church and I see you all standing around, no one's talking to the kids. Understand it from a kid's point of view. You're sitting on your clacker up the back and there's a kid coming in, no one's talking. How would you feel coming into a place and no one spoke to you? You can rebuke them if they need it. If it's an individual though, always there's a thing. If you're gonna rebuke somebody or discipline someone, it's sort of always got to be done in private. There's a saying that you rebuke in private, praise in public. I wouldn't address something publicly unless it's like a whole team issue. If it's more just a group or something like that, I'd probably just do it. Just, hey guys, just notice this. Is there any chance that this is, why is this? Probably best done in private than coming up and always slapping them. Different people lead different styles too. If you're a bit more of an aggressive person, you're probably going to lead a bit more aggressively. Most of you women. No, sorry. If you're a more pastoral person, there's a different style there, isn't there? So there's just different styles. Not one's right, one's wrong. Just want to see kids come to Jesus. And we want to disciple them in that. Is there any other comments or questions?
I think, too, that depending on what age group you're dealing with, I'm dealing with little children, your leaders need to participate along with.
Yeah.
Like if the whole group is singing, then your leaders should be singing.
Yeah.
Because the kids just don't look around, even the old ones. I mean, they're not going to say, well, shut up, it's just that how important it is to you will make it important to them.
It's true. If the kids value, I'll talk a little bit in my sermon this afternoon, but kids look at you more than what they learn from you. They're watching you. And probably that's the biggest teacher of all time. So as a leader, if you're losing it with your leaders, it's probably not a good thing. And you know what? We're not perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect, and we make mistakes. Sometimes I have to say sorry to my leaders, like I've just bitten off their head or something like that, or come in and I'm not a real fantastic morning person. It's like, it's 9 o'clock and I still hate you. I don't like you till 9:30. I might smile at you, because they've got to put up with you as well. So it's not just about them.
How do you deal with when you've got leaders that are not necessarily doing anything wrong in the ministry, but outside of the ministry, whether it's they're no longer showing up at church or they're just falling off the wagon just in other areas of their life?
Yeah.
Relational stuff if you're dealing with 20-something-year-olds and stuff.
Sure.
How do you deal with that from the sense of that there's visually there's no impact on their ministry? Like you can look at it and see they're still interacting, they still love the kids. It's nothing about the ministry. It's about the how do you?
That's a lot of work. And this is what I'm saying. This is the tension between ministering to the kids and ministering to your team. Those young people need a lot of work. I know what you're saying. It's a matter of getting with them, relationally, having a coffee, challenging the way they live, encouraging them. And it seems like you've got to do it every second week. Man, we just had this conversation 2 weeks ago. You flippin' idiot, you guys. It's like, oh no, but you know what? God's got a plan. You just got to keep refocusing. Sometimes if they drop right off the wagon, you're going to have to deal with it and say, you know what? You're not coming to church. How just challenge your life. How can you stand up and be with the kids if, your life is like this, this and this? I think we find it difficult sometimes because a lot of the times, I don't know about you, but sometimes the insecurities in my own life hinder me from challenging somebody else. But I have the responsibility of the leadership of them, so therefore it is my responsibility. And hey, if I can't do it, I'll get somebody else. So I would involve the youth minister or the youth leaders. We work together quite closely, youth and kids ministry. So I would always be talking to Robbie, say, Robbie, he was a mad Lebanese man, said, Rob, we've got this problem, and we would both work on it together. So I'm going to be meeting with such and such next week. He would meet with them the next week, so I would double barrel them. It's like, and we would be consistent in the youth and kids ministry. They were ministering at kids and at youth, and involving youth. If we had to discipline them, they were disciplined across the board. Because sometimes you're seeing something, you think, you know what, I'm not going to let you do this now because that's been inappropriate. Yet in the youth ministry, they can just do what they want. No, that's not proper discipline. So we made sure that communication with the youth ministry is one where we understood it and we both implemented it, I suppose. Yeah. But some of them go off the rails, you just got to cut them loose. It's like, you know what? Go and do what you want to do. I'll still meet with you though. I'm going to catch up with you in a month. I'm going to barrel you again. Simple. That was my sort of approach. It worked for me for who I am, I think, and yeah, I could get away with it a little bit. Not sure if I can with my wife and kids, but anyway, they barrel me. Any other questions or comments? Is this helpful or is this a later? Okay, good, sir.
What were some of the more unique or fun ways that you've built a team?
Sorry?
Some of the more unique or fun ways that you've built a team or encouraged your team?
You know what? For us, team was we loved hanging out together, right? We would do like if you're in my session, our big events. After our big events, we would party, right? We just party. We'd go, part of the budget, I'd buy like pizza galore, you know, like 10, 15 boxes of pizza. We'd get on the big screen Tekken, you know, where you kick the living daylights out of each other. The fighting games and stuff like that, and shooting games. We would eat pizza. We would play video games together. Some of those people were 40, some of them were 15, so we had a broad spectrum. We would just hang out. We would have coffee nights together, just have coffee and dessert nights. On a public holiday, say, hey guys, if I was away, let's come over to my house, have a barbecue. Just come. We don't care if one comes or they all come. Just hanging out together. And really those informal things are the things that probably more build them than the formal stuff. And just have fun. Always celebrate. We would always celebrate as much as we can. Fish and chips nights, we would do other events. We'd just have a big fish and chip night. We'd go and buy 500 scallops and batter, and we would just pig out on those, have a good laugh. And we'd laugh a lot. You know, we'd make fun of each other. We'd laugh. Think of times when we've stuffed up and have a great laugh about it. Gone and see, we thought we were pretty hot at kids ministry, and every time we thought that, we really failed miserably. And I remember we were going into a school doing like it was like an assembly, but they pulled the whole school in for this, and we thought, oh yeah, here we go, we've arrived. And we had the stupid puppet stage. Got that stupid thing now. And we took all this technical equipment that we weren't used to. We got there was no power, and we were really heavily based on multimedia. Thought, oh man, what are we going to do now? And so we found a PowerPoint. By this time, the whole school was in the gymnasium. And there was a guy who had a heart attack, who was the RE teacher who'd come in especially, and it's like, all eyes were on us, man. And everything that could go wrong went wrong. It went so wrong we couldn't do the stuff. We just said, look, we're sorry, we're just having unprecedented technical difficulties here. We can't. And we were demonstrating a 21st century kids ministry. I was behind the puppet stage just rocking in the fetal position with my thumb in my mouth. It's like, I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out. And then this lady, this RE teacher, comes out from another church with her guitar and sings Father Abraham. And like, and so, you know what? It was just incredible. And so, you know, we would talk about that a lot, you know, and just laugh and laugh and laugh about that sort of stuff. So just little things. We even celebrated our mistakes, you know, and have a good laugh about that. Comrade, you know, the guys gave a lot. You know, when you raise the bar, I've only found that people step up to it. Some drop off. That's a chance I'm willing to take. But some are attracted to that as well. You know, they'll see, if you really value it, they'll see that the comments that we would have coming back is, you know, John, your guys are just so committed and dedicated to what they do. It's phenomenal. And they were. They absolutely were. The guys, the IT crowd I had, my computer nerds, they would set up for our events. They would spend after work, they would come to the hall. We'd have lights and stuff. We'd hire in a few days early, and they would spend till 1 or 2 every morning leading up to our events, setting up all the gear, and then after it's finished, packing it all down, returning the church to normal. You know, just extraordinary commitment to the ministry. And only because we just raised, but it's not because we said, you know, yeah, we loved what we did. We believed in what we did. And that's as simple as that. And that is contagious to people. I'm passionate about this. I believe in this. This is making a difference. The problem is when you're doing stuff and it's really flagging really bad, it's pretty hard. But you've got to be a fancy talker or something like that. Yeah. You know, people are our greatest asset and our greatest resource. They are the most important than projects, plans, or even our visions. How we achieve the vision is as important as accomplishing the vision. Effective leaders build teams, and effective teams have the members who are empowered to achieve the shared vision by using their strengths, gifts, and passion. Such people serve the common purpose with their hearts and minds, not just their hands. Such teams see extraordinary things accomplished and build strong, lasting relationships that stand the test of time. You know, the greatest joy for me is one of my leaders, who is now one of the senior leaders in our church, now counsels me. And I said, you know what, how amazing it is. You know, there was a time where I was encouraging them, saying, come on, God, you really is calling you. There's something more that God wants to do in your life. And now they're saying, come on, John, you know why you've gone and done what you need to do. Just suck it up and get on with it, sort of deal. So, you know, that's cool. That's what it's about, isn't it? Okay, we have to finish at 1:45, don't we? Right. Any other last questions? You can hang back if you want to ask them, or I'm going to officially... Is that all right? Sure. Thank you.